Welcome back, everybody, to the Sexy Business Podcast. Once again, I am your host, Spooky Dangerous, and joined with me, as always, is Lewd Neko. Say hello.
Everybody.
This is a very special episode for a different reason. We probably say that every episode about how they're all special episodes, and they are special episodes because we're good at our job. But this one in particular is special because we are fulfilling one of the prizes from our THM's Locktober challenge. This is something that we did talk about previously on the show, and people could come along and sign up, and they would participate in a Locktober challenge. They would try and stay locked for the entire month of October, and they would receive kind of like captioned images and stuff with different challenges or requests or stuff that would tease them, and things to keep the challenge exciting. And we started off with 60-something, 65-ish people that signed up. And then we ended with 27. 27 people made it all the way to the end of the month. And then in doing that, we ended up with a tiered order of people. And then we created a prize board, which had a whole bunch of different stuff. We had a few friends contribute some prizes to that. So Marcy Mallard, who's previously been a guest on the show, offered up some free Patreon months, and so did the Voidbound dev team, offered up some free months for their Patreon. And then from THM, we gave out some free months of ours, and also we had 3 special prizes. One of which was you get to choose one of the featured kinks in an upcoming update for one of THM's games, of which there was 3 of those. So you can look forward to sounding, shibari content, and shared senses / referred pleasure coming up in future game updates, which is really excellent picks because that's stuff we've never covered before in any of our games. And I look forward to figuring out how the fuck I'm going to do that. Then we also had 3 people were able to name a character from the Creature of Casterfield. And so they've been implemented into the game already. They've got a whole bunch of historical documents. The character that they've named now has a family tree and all of that stuff that you'll be able to explore in the game when you do finally get to play the Creature of Casterfield. And then the last of the special prizes was that you got to request the topic for a podcast episode. And so one of the topic requests was this episode, actually, where we come back and look at how Locktober went and also talk about No Nut November. And No Nut November was a thing that we were kind of already thinking about talking about for November, but we had a couple of other things that we thought might have been more interesting. We worry about being, I don't know, potentially generic. What if we do this podcast for 7 years? We're going to do a No Nut November episode every year. And this felt like a better opportunity to kind of talk about that kind of stuff because it falls right on the back of the challenge that we just completed and how everything kind of went. Before I kind of go through the entire challenge and how everything went, do you want to talk about how your Locktober experience has been, Neko?
Yeah, so I do Locktober in like an extremely modified way. I think a lot of Locktober purists would argue that I don't do it correctly. Mostly because, and I've spoken about this previously when we talked a little bit about chastity, is female chastity belts are gonna be honest, unless you are getting them custom made to your body, they are extremely hard to actually do 24/7 wear with, especially if you gain or lose any form of weight, because all of that affects like your waist and hip measurements. And the particular belt that I had used previously had been sized like about 2 years ago, and as bodies do, my body changed, and so one of the difficulties I ended up running into is I was like, oh, this thing is now a little bit too tight on me, and so it was causing a lot of like friction and chafing. I tried using like some like anti-chafing stuff, which did help, but ultimately it was just like super annoying to have to use, especially to be in public and potentially, have something like that happen. I had one experience where I kind of like I wore it while I was out doing groceries, and I literally had to like take it off in my car because I was like, I can't drive home for 30 minutes with this thing on. And so like that was something that I kind of ran into. So I've been talking to a lot of people in my local community and on like FetLife about like what are the other belt styles people are trying? How has nobody designed a better belt at this point? So I'm going to be keeping an eye out and maybe see if for next year I can find something that's a little bit more comfortable. That being said, so I also don't do Locktober with a key holder. I just don't have one right now, and I'm not like gonna hire someone or necessarily like do something online or long distance. I'm not really interested in that. So for me, it is mostly just like a fun little challenge. It was definitely a little bit difficult this year. I am actually like never worried about breaking for the sole reason that I am extremely fucking challenge motivated. um, I can if you basically tell me to do anything and then say bet after it, I'm like, yeah, I'm in, I can do it, I can do it. That being said, like there's a lot of good porn last month, so there's definitely a lot of moments where I was like, man, really wish I could just actually come to this right now. But instead I'm gonna have to put in the bookmarks and come back to it later. So that was kind of fun. What's interesting is now that we're in November, is like a bunch of my friends are in the kink scene, so they all knew I was doing October, and I was hanging out with them on a Halloween, and they were like, "Oh well, we better get you home by midnight so that way you can go jerk off 30 times." And what actually happened is like I got home that night, midnight hit. I jerked off once and then just went to sleep. Um, and then I was just like, oh yeah, I'm actually fine. Like I don't need to do that a million times in a row. And I've been so busy and like stressed so far in November that I actually haven't been taking advantage of my current freedoms. So I think the most interesting thing about Locktober is that when I'm in Locktober, it's like this a very pressing need. Like all the time, I'm aware of the fact that like, oh, I can't get off, and I feel a lot more aroused, and I feel a lot more like aware of those sorts of functions. And then when I'm not in chastity, it just kind of goes back to business as usual. And so I think for me, the interesting thing about Locktober, a lot of people like it because it's like their libido is always activated and they like the idea of like, oh, I have to restrain myself for 1 month. And for me, it's almost the inverse, where it's like being in chastity kind of can activate my libido in an interesting way, where it's like, oh, well, once you don't have something, you become really aware of how much you want it. And so that's a lot of the fun for me, is basically I just get to have like a month-long period where I'm just like constantly aware of my own arousal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine that a lot of the people that participated in our Locktober challenge were feeling the same. I do want to kind of dive into a little bit about how it went. So basically, everyone signed up, which meant that you came and joined the Discord. You got your own private channel, so you wouldn't be able to see anybody else's channels. And then you had to upload a proof of staying locked picture. And people were like, oh, what if they just took it off after that? And it's like, look, I'm not going to sit here and watch them 24/7. The goal is to, encourage being locked for the entire time. And a lot of people that were very successful with it, I definitely do believe they left it on the whole time. But basically, every day, you would have to post the picture, and then I would be sending out kind of like a captioned image that would talk about stuff and do some challenges. Some of the fun challenges were like, you must do a certain amount of squats, which is really funny. I had one where it's like, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel, or you can do squats equal to the number of subscribers we have. And people were like, what? Or one of them was like, put ice cubes on your chastity device and stuff like that. A lot of it was more like teasing, like there was a lot of this or that type content, which you might have seen we've been posting on our Twitter recently, where some of the actual captions made for the challenge I did just schedule up to post on Twitter throughout November. And so a lot of the more social media worthy, I don't know, it's not the best way to describe it, captions and stuff are like this or that, and it'll be two different characters from our games, and it will be like, which one would you prefer, because one of them is has these kind of traits to it and the other one has these kind of traits to it. Some of them, for example, is like, this one is incredibly sadistic and this one is much more nice and gentle, and it's like, how much of a masochist are you, honestly? Kind of a question. And the point is to like put you into a headspace which is exciting and arousing and stuff like that. One of the ones, which is probably my favorite one, is I did like a bark for me one, and so I just got like a whole bunch of fucking voice files sent to me on Discord of people barking, which is so funny. But everyone pray for me because just this Locktober challenge, I've seen more penises in my life than probably most people, honestly. And it was, I volunteered for this. I don't know why I have done this. But the people that did go through it, did really seem to enjoy it, and people are still kind of hanging out and chatting in the Discord and stuff, which is kind of what I wanted. I kind of wanted to, bring some of the hardcore fans of the community together and actually be talking about their interests and stuff like that, which helps me a lot, because when I see people talking about stuff that they're excited about, whether it is something that we've done in the games, and I go, okay, that was good, I should do more of that, or whether it's something that somebody else is working on, and I go, okay, well, how can I incorporate that with what we're working on? So I am kind of excited to see sort of the success of it and where it's going to be going forwards. I do want to circle back and talk about some of the pricing and stuff, because we normally, when we record the show, we don't talk about episodes that are coming up just in case something happens. But because we have 3 specific episode requests as prizes, we are going to be fulfilling those requests, and so we can kind of talk about what they are going to be in advance. So I guess that does make this a very special podcast episode. But yeah, this one is supposed to be a Locktober / No Nut November type thing. And so we'll kind of talk about No Nut November in the second half. There's a Steam game called Femtasio, which we are going to play and have a look at. I've already purchased it on my Steam account. It's like a pretty recent release, but by the time the video for it comes out, it'll be about 2 months old, I think. And then the other one is a cuckolding or NTR video, which we're going to be recording today as well, and we'll come through and talk about some of that, because I know it's one of Neko's favorite ones. And then, so that's, if that's something that sounds like is exciting to you, you should stick around, hit the subscribe button, because you'll never see us in the algorithm otherwise, and come and check out some of those episodes. But yeah, part of the idea is I wanted to encourage people to interact with all of the stuff that we're doing here at THM. So looking at the different games we're doing, being able to suggest kinks to be put into the different games, but also interact with the podcast here, which is our kind of direct line from me, the developer, to the fans. And so they can kind of, be recommending stuff that we're looking at, because if I'm playing the game, I'm still the guy that's making the games. And if you're like, hey, this is like a great piece of media as inspiration or whatever, you're like directly delivering that to me. So I do think Locktober was a big success. We haven't done anything like this before. It's our biggest direct community involvement kind of project. Normally, we do stuff that's just like offering people to engage. Very rarely are we like, yeah, come and enter into this thing. And there's a lot of other, especially OnlyFans girlies, that do this kind of thing. A lot of the more dommy-mommy types, or like specifically chastity content, key holder type OnlyFans girlies will do this kind of thing where you'll sign up to their OnlyFans for the month, and during that month they have a special content routine that goes through a kind of a Locktober schedule. And so we were kind of ripping off that, but the upside is that for the OnlyFans girlies, you're subscribing to them because you think they're hot, or you like what they're doing or whatever, and the content they're posting is the content that they make. And so we're kind of doing that angle where it's like, well, you like THM enough to have heard about this thing and come along, and about our games exist. And so we can use the characters from our games and kind of how their personalities or how they want to interact with the main character and deliver that to you directly. And so I think it was kind of a success. Obviously, the main challenge with the formatting of how we did it is time zones. I'm unfortunately in the most cursed time zone where Australia has like basically no overlap with like anything, because we're on the wrong side of the planet. But then we're trying to cater to people that are like literally all over the world, and having something be air quotes daily is really hard because it doesn't happen at the same time every day. There will be people slowly staggering doing stuff out through the entire time. And that is also kind of the problem we're having with the prize board, because the way that you receive the prizes is, the picture shows up in your special channel and you go, hey, which one of these things would you like? They go, oh, I want that one. It gets crossed out, and then it moves on to the next person, which would be great, except today is the 11th of November and we still haven't completed giving out all the prizes yet because it's taking so long for people to see the message, pick their thing so it can go on to the next one. And that's really slow and painful, probably. So that's probably a thing that I would have changed. But I don't know. I think overall I am happy with how it's going. Whether or not we're going to do it again next year, I'm not sure. One of the downsides with being in Discord is I can't schedule stuff in advance. If it was like, I don't know, if I had the ability to just schedule all 31 images in advance, then I would just do that. I would just set it up on the first day. And then like everything happens at the same time. Everyone knows it happens at the same time. I don't have to be awake at midnight every single day to make sure that I'm posting at the same time, because that's kind of like 11 p.m. is kind of the best time for me engaging with the US, and I kind of assume most of our people in the US. But then when we have some European people, they're like, well, that was at 3 a.m. for me or whatever, and then that kind of sucks for them. So it's sort of hard. And look, if I could schedule it where it just matches the fucking person's channel's time zone, that would be perfect also. But again, these are tools I wish I had and do not exist. But if you did participate, if you are a big fan of this kind of stuff, definitely say so in the comments. If you really want there to be another one next year, I am gonna want to hear people being excited about it, because if we're not going to get that kind of same level of participation, then it's it takes a lot of time from me to put it together, and it's not like it's a product we're selling, right? So it makes it hard for me to want to prioritize stuff like that if I can't see the value in it. It's like, why would I spend time working on this when that time could be spent working on games that I do actually sell for money? And so this was kind of just a thing. It wasn't even like a Patreon exclusive, right? We used to do it everyone. We opened up on a Twitter, anyone could come and join and get involved. And so, look, whether people are keen on doing the same thing again or not, please let me know. But I think now is a good time to talk about No Nut November, because it's really similar to Locktober, but it's much less kink specific, I guess. And the reason why I'm really interested in this overlap is that there's a lot of comic artists that I follow. Most of the porn that I consume is in comic form. And they will do like a panel a day type thing, which is like really good for the social engagement. Other people want to stay locked in, people want to follow along. And the panel a day will be like, here's the character. Oh no, you're going to be locked in chastity for the entire of November. And then it kind of goes through their month of how much they're suffering and how horny they're getting and how hard it is for them. One of my favorite ones is by Kanoji, who was one of the people that we had commissioned to do a piece for our collectible cards project, so I'm pretty familiar with their work. And they do like the classic, the character gets locked in chastity, then they kind of get cucked by their partner, and then they get feminized, and then like they just continue going down that pipeline. And kind of a lot of them are doing like that. The one that I'm following at the moment is Snom Doodles. You would see that I retweeted that a bunch on the 11th of November, where they're doing a daily post. But this one is Femboy Link. And the kind of twist on it is that the chastity device is a Zonai device that's like it's built to encourage him to go and rescue Zelda faster and to stop him from doing silly side quest content. And so he gets punished if he's doing stuff that wastes time, and he gets rewarded if he's doing something that helps him complete the quest. Which I think is really funny and interesting concept as a way to like start it out. And then they do more and more stuff that like teases him more and more, and eventually gets feminine. Currently where we're up to, he's just been to the Garuda village or whatever, and they've kind of forcibly feminized him. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. I really like that idea of here's the story told over the period of what the month would be, which is kind of similar to the Locktober challenge. But what about you, Neko? Now that you've successfully freed yourself from Locktober and you've already come a bunch of times in November, kind of what's your feeling on it? Is it kind of pick one, you dedicate to Locktober, or if you're a hardcore fan, you try and do 2 months, or you just like at that point just never come, just scoop that shit back into your body. You don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of No Nut November. Part of it is just like I like that Locktober is concise. It's a month. It was specifically made like by and for the kink community. The vibes are better in my opinion. Whereas a lot of people, like including people from the kink community, have adapted No Nut November, where they've just been like, oh cool, extra month of chastity, or oh I can keep up the theme. But the origins of the movement and how it's kind of gotten like co-opted into this weird alt-right thing is always a little bit concerning to me. So for those unaware, I think No Nut November was like originally kind of like ironic, but then it very quickly just became unironically people being like porn is bad, masturbation is bad, it always becomes addicted. If you masturbate, you're wasting like sexual energies, and that's why you're single and that's why you're frustrated and all this other stuff. And that's not to say that porn and masturbation doesn't have the potential to be harmful. Like anything can be harmful. Video games can be harmful, smutty novels can be harmful, buying things can be harmful. If you're using something as a bad coping mechanism, you can use anything for that. But I always get kind of nervous whenever people start talking about porn addiction or masturbation addiction, because it often gets into that weird space of like, oh, well, all porn is bad, and so we should get rid of it. Or, masturbating is bad, so you should only be like focused on sex and flirting, which, is fine if that's what you prefer. But, as someone who is on like the ACE spectrum, like masturbation is just how I do things. And that if I was not masturbating, it's not like that energy would go anywhere else. I would just get kind of depressed. There are some people who like do still legitimately sort of follow those logics. If you go into like the no-fap community, some people are using it in healthy ways to sort of process like a sex addiction or something like that. And then you also just have a lot of people who are like, if you save up your cum, it makes you biologically superior. And it's like, whoa. So that's like always the thing that's kind of bothered me. I also hate how No Nut November is like a meme. Like, I don't know, as soon as teenagers are talking about it, I'm like, oh, it's over, pack it up, we gotta go. And I'm sure at this point
That's it. I'm
teenagers are also
nodding.
like, right? I'm sure they're also aware of like Locktober, but to like a much lesser extent. Like, you don't see normies joking about Locktober. I mean, there was all of like the examples where like normies thought the phrase Locktober meant like locking in, like, oh, October's the month where you lock in and you get your shit done. And it's like, no. And they pretty quickly figured out they were wrong about that. But like, you don't really see people memeing about Locktober. They're not like, oh, ha ha, I'm gonna wink, wink, nudge, nudge, do chastity for a month as an ironic bit. Like, nobody's gonna do that because it's like, oh, well, that's a very direct kink thing.
Well,
Whereas
yeah,
like lots of
it's
people make
also
jokes.
it's submissive
Yeah.
leaning, right? Whereas when
Hmm.
you have that mental purist no nat November mindset of the, oh yeah, bro, if I don't come, I'm not going to get personal clarity. I'm just going to ascend and become a genius or whatever. Versus being locked in chastity, which is like forfeiting it. It's like forfeiting that alpha-ness or whatever. Like, it's inherently submissive, which I think clashes with that same kind of mindset, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's the same as like the phrase or like the term gooning now. It's like I know that like gooning is like an actual kink, but like because of like the fact that like normies are using it now, I'm just like it's over. We got to come up with a different word because like now the word gooner just means person who has like sex interests that I think are weird and
Fucking
bad.
sex
Um
enjoyers, yeah.
like people will call anything that has boobs a gooner bait. They're like, oh, that's a woman, a gooner bait. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, at this point, you're just saying anything that could be potentially viewed as attractive is bad. And again, like, especially just because we're in this political moment where we are seeing that like shift back towards conservatism, where the bans against porn are becoming more common, the rhetoric about like, we got to protect the children, we got to make sex, pure and wholesome again. I get nervous when these things kind of leak into like pop culture, because it's ironic at first, and then it's really easy to kind of drink the Kool-Aid and be like, no,
Mhm.
actually porn is bad and we should be discriminating against these people who are engaging with it.
Yeah, I also worry about people that, yes, drink the Kool-Aid, but like they engage with it. They go, maybe I should do No Nut November because I will ascend and my third eye will open and my fifth eye will close or whatever. And then like things in their life unrelatedly start going well. Like a lot of times it's like, and just go to the gym, bro, or whatever, and they kind of, want to lock in and do stuff at the gym. And there's like other things just kind of unrelatedly go well for them, and they go, well, this was the cause, and it's completely unrelated.
Mm.
So it's something like that kind of worries about me, but also it's also weird how it's so mimetic with the culture and people are always kind of talking about it, and it's like, haha, being silly, I'm a gooner, I love jerking my dick, and it's like, well, yeah, I do like that actually. I don't know, it's just it does really feel cringe and kind of childish in it. And I do really like the more serious content where you see, kind of comic artists talking about it. But it's always from more like a femdom angle or like a I've seen like a lot of cool magic related ones. There was one where a student at a magical school gives themselves a fooded dick for the first time, but they like fuck it up, so it's like way too horny and they can't handle it, and they're doing everything they can to kind of restrain themselves and hide it and not have to actually be able to pay attention in class and stuff like that. And it's like using the format or the idea to tell a compelling kind of narrative. And so like, I think that's kind of like the apex of the concept for me. But there's like no reason that those things can't just be done in Locktober, right? The reason
or any other month, like just do chastity art.
Yeah, no fuck February. But because No Nut November is such a recognizable meme, such a like part of the Guna culture, that it's more like a marketing stunt than actual earnestly made art with the intention of telling a story. You know what I mean? Like I've designed this because I will get rewarded with views rather than I've done this because, boy, I just really want to jerk my shit all the time and I can't or whatever.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of it, like the artists you've mentioned, and like I've seen some like really good SFM stuff with it before. Because I'm someone who has like a major like I have like the weird like kind of like inflation or like when the balls actually get bigger because there's more cum in them, which doesn't make any fucking biological sense. And so like that is one of the common things I see in a lot of like both like SFM art based on like No Nut November as well as just like regular 2D and digital art and stuff like that. And so I do enjoy like the host of kinks that can be associated with this, especially when they are taken in that like fantastical direction of like, okay, let's make this as silly and over the top as possible. That stuff, I do enjoy that because it's kind of taking this like very puritanical concept and then like absolutely perverting it into something that is like super fetishy. And I think the original people behind No Nut November would hate that, and that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think there is. So for our fan base, right, a lot of them are going to be in that kind of tease and denial. A lot of them are going to be into that kind of chastity kind of thing. And a lot of them are going to be in that kind of, feminization pipeline. And a lot of the, comics and content that I see kind of engage with exactly these topics. So I know that it, appeals to specifically my target market, people that engage with THM's games and stuff like that. And so a lot of stuff that I write kind of like runs along those same lines. Like it really is just a well-defined feminization pipeline, and then like just some optional ones that you can take. Like it doesn't always have like cuck content or whatever. But like normally it's the same kind of thing. Like, there's a little bit of cross-dressing. Maybe there's some chastity. Well, like now because you're in chastity and you can't jerk your shit, now you're desperate for anal sex or whatever, and it kind of progresses along that way. And I like the idea of here is the month. Here is because you're getting hornier and hornier throughout the month. This is how everything kind of progresses. But like you said, it doesn't specifically need to be in October. It doesn't specifically need to be in November. I think it's just, like I said, specifically for my target market is really compelling because it is like nailing in exactly those themes and does a good job of showing the progress over time, which could just be done in any other way. So look, kind of the summary, if you opened the video to 28 minutes like a Chad, then basically the kind of cultural impact of it has ruined a lot of what makes it interesting, and you as a person can just do whatever you want based on what your key holder says. You can nut or not. It's not up to me unless if I am your key holder, in which case no, you cannot nut. Not in November, not in December, not ever. Unless if it's from anal. Coming from anal is okay, and that's it. That's how it goes. And just come responsibly, I guess. Banning porn doesn't solve anything. Not jerking your shit doesn't give you superpowers. Jerking your shit 5 times a day doesn't give you superpowers either. I can give you first-hand experience for that. And that's kind of our thing. That's okay. Jerking our shit 5 times a day is not our thing. I mean, this is the end of the episode. That is kind of our thing. We wanted to come and talk about Locktober and No Nut November, and kind of like I said, I think it's a bit more about what we're doing and what's happening rather than the cultural phenomenon itself. Because unless the people are specifically committing themselves to something like our Locktober challenge that we did, it is a lot harder to feel like you're encouraged or incentivized to do such a thing, because everything is just so geared towards being a gooner lately. Everyone's trying to arouse you Everyone's trying to excite you. Everyone's trying to make you come, I guess. Me too, me included. I'm trying to make you come. Neko, would you like to tell everyone what buttons to press that will make them come? After prostate, the
Well,
obvious one, the other buttons.
yeah, it's the end of November. If you are doing No Nut November, well, it's about to be December, and you can finally nut again. And I bet you want some recommendations of games that you can jerk your shit to. And guess what we do? We play a lot of games, and we talk about a lot of different fetishes, and we interview people who make sexy things. And if you want to see more of that kind of content, then you should subscribe to us. Make sure to turn on notifications because pretty much all of our content just gets blacklisted because we talk about weird sex stuff. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and feel free to leave a comment down below if you did participate in either Locktober or No Nut November. If you have strong feelings about this, if you were one of the winners of Spooky's little contest or Locktober event, tell us about it in the comments. And as always, we do also take suggestions. So if you have a particular game you think would be interesting that we talk about, or a topic, or a fetish, or even like an artist or a game dev or someone who you think would be a good fit for the show, we do appreciate those kinds of recommendations, and it could end up becoming an episode at some point in the future. But otherwise, that is going to be it for us today. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next time on the Sexy Business Podcast.
Bye
Hey, everybody!
bye.